Often when we picture Borneo, we think of steaming hot tropical rainforests. And although this is true of lowland habitats, once we get into the mountains, everything changes. Borneo sports some impressive mountain peaks that are clothed in cool, misty cloud forests. And these are home to some of the island's most impressive birds. Our journey has taken us here, to a landscape of dew-laden conifers and brisk mountain air, to continue our search for captivating endemics in a place quite unlike any other. Okay, we're up here now on the slopes of Mount Kinabalu in Sabah, which is one of the highest mountains in Southeast Asia, and certainly by far the highest mountain in Borneo. This is the premier spot to see a lot of Borneo's endemic mountain birds. Most people come here to climb the mountain and spend 2 days trekking up to the summit and back. But if you're a bird watcher or a bird photographer, your time is best spent in the mountain forests around the park headquarters area, which is about 1,500 meters in elevation. It's some of the most pleasant birding in Borneo because the temperatures are very cool, a good 3, 4, even 5 degrees cooler than in the lowlands. And of course, at this altitude, the forests are different and we get different species of birds than we do in the lowlands. There's a lot of famous montane birds that are only found in these types of forests, and that's what we're going to be looking for here. We begin our search for birds at the first light of dawn, preparing our equipment and slowly walking up the park's road to Timpahon Gate, the trailhead for the summit hike of Mount Kinabalu. Birdwatching here in the mountain forest is a lot different than in the lowlands. There are problems with birding here sometimes. The weather can change very quickly. It gets foggy, heavy rains, and sometimes it's very hard to see the birds because it's so misty in the air. You look for birds here in the mountain forest a bit differently than you do in the lowlands. Because there's fewer insects in the mountains, birds tend to flock together and form what we call mixed species flocks. This is to increase their efficiency of hunting in the forest. And when you find a mixed species flock, you have to stick with it because that's when you're going to see the most birds together. Mixed species flocks are believed to be effective for several reasons. First, because so many birds are traveling together and keeping an eye out for potential danger, there's more safety from being surprised by a predator. Second, birds foraging together probably increase their feeding efficiency, especially in habitats where food is more scarce. Although some birds in these flocks feed on fruits, most are hunting insects and other small invertebrates. And because each bird species is a different size and has its own specialization, they aren't as directly competitive with one another as a flock of birds of all the same species would be. For example, leaf warblers might be looking for caterpillars on leaves, while flycatchers snag moths in midair and woodpeckers dig out grubs from a tree trunk. Mixed flocks also have the advantage of increasing their chances of finding a rich feeding patch, as well as avoiding areas which have already been searched for food. With so many different food plants around the Kinabalu Park headquarters, there are plenty of birdwatching opportunities within easy reach. The most action you can hope for is maybe catches an insect, comes back to a perch and eats it. I know, it's right there. I saw it. Yeah, right there. Despite its bright red coloration, Whitehead's trogon is surprisingly difficult to find in Kinabalu's forests. Like other trogons, it perches completely still for long periods of time, only slowly turning its head from side to side as it scans the surrounding foliage for insects. Being such a biologically important site in Malaysia, Mount Kinabalu receives a constant stream of scientists and researchers year-round. We're fortunate to be joined here by Alim Biyun, a retired Kinabalu Park research officer. I understand you were working here for more than 40 years in the park?
Oh yeah, actually I started quite early in 1976. In the beginning time, when I just started my career in the park, so I was a general staff. My interest towards to the environment is getting improved. And then after that, I carry on my study, and then that's be able for me to become a research officer.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, yes.
And how many years did you actually work on the birds of Kinabalu?
Yeah, actually more than 20 years.
Biyun's experience in the park doesn't just cover birds. He also has decades of experience with many aspects of the local flora and fauna. Well, certainly you know where to find all the birds here.
Oh,
You've
yeah,
got a lot of experience.
Yeah, definitely. My personal study about birds in Kinabalu Park is the altitudinal study. How is the bird distribute throughout the mountain gradient? I took this opportunity, and then I apply grants from the Sabah Parks and also from the MacArthur Foundation from Japan. They provide me money, and then I ran the research for 2 years,
right,
in 1996 and 1997.
Although many of Kinabalu's birds are known from specific elevations on the mountain, studies have shown that individual birds migrate up and down the slopes of the mountain, probably following the seasonal availability of fruits and other foods. In other words, their elevational ranges are not fixed. Do you think that the fact that because Kinabalu is such a big mountain with so much habitat and obviously the highest elevation of any Bornean mountain, that this is why there are more endemics here than compared with some of the other mountains in Borneo?
I think so, especially the highlands above 1,000 meters. We have 130 endemic species. That's including the sub-endemic species.
Right.
And then out of 130, and then 128 species found here in Sabah.
Right.
And most of these birds can be seen here in Kinabalu.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of other relatively high mountains like Tambo Yukon and Trusmati, even in Sarawak, but the montane birds are much more difficult to see there. And I think, as you say, because of the accessibility, Kinabalu is the easiest place to see these birds. I also noticed that a lot of the birds here, especially around the Kinabalu Park headquarters, they have bands on the legs. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was for?
The main purpose for the ring is for long-term monitoring. Actually, I was involved that research also.
It's common around the Kinabalu Park headquarters area to see birds with leg bands that have been placed there by researchers. They're harmless to the birds and allow ornithologists to quickly identify individual birds and study their movements and behaviors. Okay, fantastic. Well, why don't we get started and try our luck with some of the birds?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
black
it's
eye.
at the top.
Okay. With its distinctive black eye patch, the mountain blackeye is one of Kinabalu's most recognizable endemics. Although it can occasionally be found around the park headquarters area, it becomes increasingly common at higher elevations of the mountain and is probably the most abundant bird in the upper reaches of Kinabalu's alpine habitats. It hunts for small insects among the foliage of trees and low bushes, but also eats berries and some nectar from flowers.
Whoa! Rat! Shit! Left side.
What? Where?
Just flew across here and then went to the back.
Landed? Got something. It got a snake. Oh my God. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Check out this video. Rare footage.
We have a lowland serpent eagle, very common, but this one is the mountain serpent eagle. It's quite uncommon, rare and endemic to Borneo, and getting it to eat prey and perched, that's amazing.
Our mountain serpent eagle sighting at such close proximity was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and it fueled our hopes for the rest of our stay in Kinabalu. So, Alim, what kind of birds can we expect on the mountain trail here?
Once we start hiking from this area, from this spot, until to the summit trail, and they are quite different species from the lowland because it is quite high already. This is almost 2,000 meters above sea level, and then mostly mountain species like mountain black eye, snowy brown flycatcher, mountain rain babbler. If we walk a little bit further up, the friendly bush warbler. Yeah.
With so many incredible plants in Kinabalu's mountain forests, it's easy to get distracted along the way. The plant diversity here is some of the highest in the world, with many species that can be found nowhere else. Being familiar with various species of plants, especially those that produce fruits and nectar, helps build a greater understanding of birds and their behavior.
This is a fig, and the figs are very small on this one, and honestly, I don't know what eats these. It could be squirrels. I kind of doubt it's birds because I think they're too small for birds. But who knows? Somebody would have to sit here and watch when it's fruiting to find out what this is designed for. So the figs are extremely diverse. And then just down here, we have an orchid. Orchids also extremely diverse, especially in Borneo. This one doesn't have any flowers right now, but you can see where the flowers used to be, these stalks right here. And if we were lucky to catch it in flower, you would see these small but very colorful little orchid flowers coming out one by one here. And of course, when you look at that close, you can see that it's an orchid. Very sure. Good. Try again. Oh, yeah. I can see it.
Further up the trail, we encounter the very shy Bornean shortwing, which unfortunately barely revealed itself in the dense undergrowth. Nevertheless, it was great to check off another endemic species from our list. Alim's experience and exceptional bird finding skills lead us to our next bird, the Bornean stubtail, which is another shy and skulking bird of the dense forest understory. Its call is so high-pitched that many people simply can't hear it.
So I think for the stubtail, we'll get one chance. The first time it comes in is basically it. 6 hours up the mountain trail. I mean, we got a few birds, but no sign of the friendly warbler. Maybe we better head down the mountain. We might hear it on the way down.
On our way back to the park headquarters, we came across a pair of hair-crested drongos. Drongos are medium-sized birds that are extremely agile flyers. They usually perch on exposed branches where they swoop out to catch passing insects in midair.
So we're looking at the nest of the Whitehead's broadbill, and this has been active for about a month already. You can see it's a very large moss-covered nest, very camouflaged in the foliage here, and it's a sensitive site. We have to be very careful not to disturb the birds because they're actively nesting, they're trying to avoid predators and competition. Kinabalu Park has been the focus for a lot of bird research onto nesting activities over the years. And the team that I talked with, that I met up here, said that there is a huge loss of all the nests due to predators and other factors, competition. In fact, if I remember correctly, something like over 80% of all nests are unsuccessful. So because of this, visitors have to be extremely careful not to disturb the nests. The park actually set up caution tape to prevent people from getting too close to this nest because eager photographers want to get the perfect shot of the bird at the nest, and that can lead to disturbance when you have too many people around. There's a good reason that photo competitions usually do not allow photos of birds at the nest. It's because they don't want to encourage people trying to compete to get too close to a nest because the birds have it hard enough as is. Any further disturbance could result in an unsuccessful nest attempt.
With the discovery of the nest, we know it's only a matter of time before we find the broadbill itself.
We need a broadbill or a trogon to perch on that right there, yeah? It's just a matter of waiting long enough.
I like that one in the back. The mossy branch.
Oh, that'll do too, sure.
Alim Biyun, who had split from our group to cover more ground, finally sights the broadbill, so we rush to the spot.
Just about this distance. Wow. I was there just now.
With its incredible vivid green plumage, it's easy to see why the Whitehead's broadbill is one of the most prized birds for birdwatchers and photographers alike. Although both male and female Whitehead's broadbill are green, the color of the male is much more intense in saturation. This is the largest of Borneo's 3 green broadbill species, and it feeds on a variety of forest fruits.
We're just wrapping up a couple days of birding in Kinabalu National Park, and it's been fantastic. Some of the most pleasant birding in Borneo. It's been fantastic to see so many of Borneo's endemics. Of course, there's quite a few of the target species which we didn't actually get to see, but that's something for the next visit. But in fact, we did see quite a few good species. Some very memorable ones like the Whitehead's trogon, Whitehead's broadbill, just fantastic birds. One of the things we see about birding in the mountains is, of course, there's not as many species as there are in the lowlands of Borneo, but what we do see are very special and a lot higher percentage of endemic birds here than in the lowlands. So it's a very important place for completing our visit of Borneo birds.
With so many incredible birds, we could easily spend a few weeks exploring Kinabalu's forests and still not run out of species to photograph. However, we still have more endemic birds to target in other parts of Borneo, so we have to reluctantly bid farewell to Mount Kinabalu and head off to our next destination.